Hey there, and welcome back to another My Hero Academia video. And today we're going to be talking about the latest episode to drop, episode 5, Let You Down, which finally sees the final war arc start to take shape. And so before we get started, I will just say, I have read the manga, but I don't really remember anything at all, so I'm pretty much flying blind. So anime only fans, you can watch along, join into. No spoilers. And so with all that being said, let's jump into it, shall we? So we start off following Toga as she makes her way through her childhood home, which has been ransacked and graffitied all over, mostly with abuse and hatred directed towards her family for raising her. And as she walks through it, she hears the voices of her family berating her, mentioning how she frightens them, how they wish she was normal, all that sort of thing. And I know the character itself is popular with the fandom, but I felt like this episode specifically was really working to try to make me feel sorry for this character, but isn't she a serial killer? And I get her parents were not the best, but my good golly. Remember how she sucked the blood out of that little bird? If you knew your kid had tendencies like that, and an extreme desire to act on those feelings violently, wouldn't you too be slightly afraid? How am I supposed to feel all that bad for her? She's a terrible person. Yes, she's mentally ill and pitiable, but she's not really that sympathetic to me. And maybe that's controversial, but it's just how I feel. Same with everybody in the league, really. I just don't see how to sympathize with characters who are so terrible and who have killed so many innocent people without remorse. Toya then appears to speak with Toga, and he's much the same. The story gives him this massive tragic backstory. He had a dad that tossed him away like he meant nothing at all, but he's also a crazy mass murderer. Not really able to justify that one fella. But that being said, I'm still a little bit mixed on the scene, because I did like the scene because it showcased depth as well. In that, just because these guys are bad guys, villains, insane, monstrous, doesn't mean they can't have normal feelings. Feelings like friendship, sadness, guilt, grief, camaraderie. And I think this scene showcases some of that kaleidoscope of emotions. And it completes itself with Toya severing the connection to her old life by burning down the house for her. It's a somewhat compassionate act, and one that I think adds depth to the group, in that it shows they care. He then gives her a vial of blood, which has twice inside it, and tells her they need to continue his march of grief. So clearly there's some level of mourning going on there too, and I do know that Toya claimed he only gave a shit about Twice because he was useful to him. But I also think that's a bit of a smokescreen that he made for himself. I think he did somewhat care. Why would he bother easing her pain to burn down the house if he didn't care about them at all? I doubt it would be to get her head in the game, because if anything, she's probably more useful being as tormented as she possibly can be. But he chooses to burn it down for her, to help her. And so I think on some level, he probably does miss Twice too. We then have the intro theme and jump into the next scene, which continues following the League of Villains, this time back in All For One's cave. We can hear Shigaraki screaming as he puts his body back together and restores its power to what it was before he fought Star and Stripe, and I have to ask, does All For One just not have anesthetic for this poor dude? I swear this guy just keeps letting Shigaraki get juiced up with all these quirks and then just scream for days at a time. Get the man some happy gas or something, chief. Yeesh. Also, when Spinner was walking into the dark tunnel, I've become very conditioned to thinking of brutal jump scares on the way, and I guess in a way it did happen. I mean, that massive fingers, and they leave behind slime? Slime! No thanks, yucky. And then we get something interesting, where it seems that Spinner, I think, is having doubts about everything he's part of right now. I mean, he's clearly loyal to Shigaraki and the League and the cause, but at the same time, I think it's very obvious to him that All For One can't be trusted, which in turn is making him suspicious of what he's doing to Shigaraki. And also, I don't think he feels like he wants to be the face of a revolution to heteromorphs, but he has become one, and now they depend on him to lead the charge, so I think he's very conflicted about what's going on. And whilst I think that him joining the heroes would be a ridiculous twist, I do see him betraying All For One in some way if he finds out that Shigaraki's body is for sure being usurped. It's then revealed that Aoyama wasn't the only agent in UA, and that there are unnamed civilians too that work for All For One, and they have orders to stir things up, so I guess this is just seeing some of those alternate different pathways that All For One set up for himself to jump to and fro, in order to find that optimal path for his planned success. And last time, I said it would be nice to see us watch the hero class whoop some villain ass to see how far they've progressed, and that did not end up happening, which was a bit of a shame. I guess we'll see that in the final war arc, but still, can you blame me for wanting more? We also see Deku attempt to go and talk to Uraraka, perhaps to have a romantic moment, only for All Might to interrupt him. Damn, sorry kid, love confessions are for after the final boss. Sorry, it's just how it is. And All Might tells them that he's going to explain the plan to them, but we, the audience, don't get to listen to it because, as I thought, the plan is probably going to be revealed to us as it's happening, which is a pretty stock standard animation trope, honestly, but still, a bit of a tease. And so, it's announced that soon UA is going to go under martial law, and that the heroes are once again off to battle, and we get a cute compilation of goodbyes from parents and friends, but especially to Deku from his little fan club. God, I love those moments, so wholesome in every respect. And so the class and heroes move to a new fortress, Troy, a distance away from the UA complex, and here we get a couple of scenes that sort of set the scene, as it were. First, Deku goes to talk with Uraraka and does his best to reassure her when she tells him that she's weird for looking out over the destroyed city. I mean, he somewhat crashes and burns with his attempts to compliment her, but he tried at least. Your hairstyle looks great on you. Oh, mate. But yeah, ultimately this scene simply added a bit to the stakes and the drama of the upcoming battle and made it clear that Uraraka versus Toga is the endgame fight. But that also on some level, Uraraka has compassion for Toga. She knows she's slightly unhinged and she doesn't have the same experiences that shaped her morality. That on some level, she lacks that fundamental understanding, which makes her pitiable. But also, Uraraka has come to look at the destruction of the city, to remember that whilst she may be pitiable, it's not about forgiveness now. She needs to be defeated, and Uraraka can't hesitate on that score.
No, she's crazy and she needs to go down.
But regardless, she can't help but feel conflicted. Similarly, Deku has the same thoughts about Shigaraki, that there is this crying little boy within him, and he wants to save that boy, but he knows he might not have that chance. They're really working on getting that bittersweet ending, but I don't know, I still don't really sympathize with these people. Maybe Shigaraki a little bit, because his whole life was a tool for All For One, but even then, not that much. And definitely not for the others. And so we have these two, who seem to want to save them if they can, and then Todoroki, who definitely wants to save his brother. I really enjoyed the supportive words from Ida here, and the banter from Bakugo. Honestly, these side friendships have untapped potential, and they have for so long. Glad to see them just a little bit. I wish we had time for more. Then the piano hits and it's back over to All For One. God, this guy's just the most dramatic man alive sometimes. We skip ahead 3 days as he monologues to himself about how lies don't work on him.
My trick's gonna work on me. Only money.
That there was a quirk in the early days of Powers that was rather interesting, used by a boring person, but whose descendants have used it in far more exciting ways, even to help All Might face him down. Am I an idiot? Am I missing something here? Did they say who it is? Like, an anti-lying quirk. What's that? Okay, I had to go and Google it, so I wouldn't go insane. And it's the police guy. And yeah, that makes sense. Is that his quirk too? I'd forgotten. Regardless, All For One continues. He calls up Aoyama's parents, and he gives them orders which are in turn related to Aoyama. And he sets up the meeting with Deku, and man, this scene, it fooled me and I felt so stupid. Aoyama lures Deku out into the open and goes on a long-winded monologue about how Japan's economy's crashed, how this is going to have an impact on the world, and eventually, all economies will crash as chaos takes over. And then All For One plans to swoop in and put it all under his thumb because he has quirks that can be useful for anything. And so it's going to buy loyalty when resources and services are scarce, giving him the opportunity to fill the void of the collapsed economy and government worldwide and become the true Demon King. And then All For One appears and summons his villain allies, and Deku's all betrayed and upset, Aoyama's crying, and I somehow forgot that this was supposed to be the plan by the heroes, that this was all a setup. And so I was just massively shocked that they had Aoyama fail his redemption, and I was getting a bit annoyed at that, only for him to turn and attack. Oh man. I felt so stupid. Like I just missed the whole point of this episode completely. Oh man. But yeah, I thought it was really clever how they circumvent the lying quirk by only ever telling the truth. I mean, sure, the plan would have failed if All For One bothered to dig any deeper on the phone when talking to them, but I guess that's part of his hubris, right? That's part of his character. And yeah, when Aoyama betrays him, so awesome. Even if he does wet himself in the process. And All For One's voice, the tone shift, yikes, frosty, pure venom, anger at the betrayal, rage at the audacity of it all. Especially when he'd gotten so close, and then all the heroes coming through the portal like it's a goddamn Avengers. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. An epic shot to start an epic finale. Then the episode ends. Oh, leave me on such a tease. Oh well, there's always next week, where it seems that they're going to go through the plan in depth. Now the trap's been sprung. Man, I'm hyped. Let's go. And so yeah, with all that being said, these have just been my opinions, and I'd like to hear yours. What do you think of the episode? You like it? Hate it? I'm curious for your thoughts, so make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know.